Alright, so this is a weighted drawing pencil demo for Art 2. So, first thing we're going to look at is we're going to look at the weighted pencils here. So, we've got an H pencil, got an HB pencil, we got a 2B and a 4B. Now, H is the lightest pencil, HB is the second darkest, 2B is darker, 4B is darker. The reason that they're this way is the B's actually mean like soft graphite. So the higher the number on the B, the softer the lead, the darker the mark it's going to make. The higher the number on the H, the lighter the mark it's going to make. Most sets just typically come with one H pencil, but some come with a 2H or even a 4H. So typically how I tell people to start is to start with the hardest graphite here. So you want to shade everything and kind of go with the unidirectional lines. Shade everything that's kind of got even a little bit of darkness to it with the H pencil. And you can also use, in the dark spots, you can use a little bit of line work to kind of reinforce the edges of things, especially if it's like a crisp edge. I'm seeing some edges here. Now obviously when you start shading yours, you're going to want to erase your grid lines, but for the sake of the demo, I just thought I'd leave them in there. So I'm applying some shading all throughout here, all throughout this area. This is a general kind of maybe number 2 or number 3 value if you were looking at a value like a 10-part value scale. And I'm going to go ahead and shade in these little things here because I'll show you how to do like reflected light, and that's kind of important. I'm going to leave whatever's light here along the edge. I'm going to leave that light. Don't shade all the way up to the edge. I've got a little bit of reflected light here too. So I want to make sure not to apply too much shading to that. I'm changing directions here, and that's okay because I'm going to use my little smudge stick to smudge it out. And if you don't have a smudge stick, you can use a paper towel folded to a triangle. This is very dark in here. Alright, so now that I got that general value put in, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go the direction that my strokes go with my smudge stick. Some people call these tortillions, some people call them blending stumps. You can call them whatever you want, so long as you do the right thing with the tool. Alright, so now that I've got that blended nice and smooth, I'm going to come in with my HB, which is a little bit darker than an H pencil. And now I'm just going to focus on the areas that are kind of like the middle tone and darker. So I've got these heavy pock marks up in the top here where the stone is pitted. I've got these dark edges along these ridges, and there's a lot of heavy shading in this spot, in these spots in here. Very dark in here too. Alright, so now I'm going to once again use my little smudge stick to kind of smooth out those values. Now, We're going to use the smudge stick less and less as we get darker and darker, because we want to really leave those rich values behind. And if you over smudge, you're really just taking the graphite right off the surface. But for these first two values, it's okay to kind of smudge them out, especially to smooth the transitions between the values. So like where one value gets lighter. All right, so now I'm going to take my 2B pencil, and I'm going to do a similar thing, focusing on the darker areas mostly. At this point, you could also just skip straight to 4B if you didn't want to use your 2B. I'll refrain from making the obvious Shakespeare joke. And at this point, I'm kind of leaning into a little bit of leaving a little bit of line work behind to really push those deep values. And I'm really looking at specifically what the dark is, so I'm noticing like a dark along this bottom edge here, dark in this back corner. All right, so this is probably the last time I'm going to really use my smudge stick, and I'm going to use it to kind of just pick at the edges to smooth the transitions so they're not so like edged out. So I'm mostly focusing on where the darks transition to the middle tones. Now from here, I'm going to take my 4B, which is my darkest pencil, and I'm just going to barely hit the spots that are really, really dark. So along the edge of this kind of I guess it's like some kind of scale along the edge here, and I'm just going to use the side of the pencil to blend it into this other value over using my smudge stick. So I'm just using pressure and the side of the pencil to do that. Really going to hit this deep shadow in the corner here, and there's a really, really dark shadow on the side of this piece of stone. And then these little like pitted areas are really, really deep shadow up here too. All right, so there you have it.